right and left. I guess it's fairly obvious. Hi, good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for that warm welcome. So I've been at City Hall as Senior Manager for Digital Transformation for the last 3 years, and I'm finishing up there tomorrow. So it has been quite a journey that I've been on there and that I've taken the organisation on, and now trying to kind of expand that across London's government. So I'm going to talk you through. I'm going to hopefully, if my slides work, I'm going to talk you through quite a lot of the things that we've been doing. So I'm going to have to be fairly high level about it, but I'm going to make sure that we leave some time for questions at the end. So if there's stuff that you want more detail on, then that's the time. It's time to ask. So I'm going to start off with the london.gov.uk work, because that was how the journey began and was the kind of catalyst for change at the organisation. I'm going to talk about how we've built capability in City Hall, some of the tactics that we've used, and then, as I said, building a community across London's government as well. So london.gov.uk journey. I joined in September 2014. At a time when we needed to build a new platform for London's government. So we had a really out-of-date website. It was built on old technology. The user experience was poor. The search didn't really work. It was just all completely broken. So my task was to build a completely new thing. And we also needed to raise our profile. So one of the problems, I mean, City Hall's a relatively new organisation. There's only been a Mayor of London for, I think, about 15 years, and people are still kind of getting their head around what he does and what the London Assembly are. So a lot of people kind of think, oh, yeah, the Mayor, he's responsible for transport and policing. They don't really understand the breadth of what he does actually have powers and influence over in London and the budgets associated with that. And also, quite often in research, people think that the London Assembly work for the Mayor. They don't. They are 25 elected members from across the various political parties who are there to scrutinise the work of the Mayor and City Hall. So there's a lot of education to do to engage Londoners in the work of their government so that they understand what they're doing with their money and how they can get involved and influence the policy and the delivery. So it's really, really important stuff. It was quite old school when I arrived, fairly old school IT department. The web team was a website manager and 2 web publishers, as they were called. And that was actually it. They got a few contractors in to help with the new website work, and I arrived and I was a little bit kind of taken aback and like, oh, there's kind of a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to have to do here. But what you can't do when you want to transform an organisation is to arrive and say, everything you're doing is terrible, we need to start from scratch, because that doesn't go down very well. It doesn't indeed, people. So what my tactic was to kind of start work and start introducing change as we went along, because I had a very hard deadline as to when we needed to launch the new london.gov.uk. It had to be at least 6 months before the mayoral election in 2016, so that it's PERDA and all of that kind of political restriction stuff. So I started talking about user needs. That was the first thing. There was no budget and no user researchers available. No budget for user research, I should say. So that was the thing. I thought this is the most important thing that we're missing here. We're missing a focus on users. So I made the case for a budget for user research, appointed the Web Usability Partnership, who are an excellent user research specialist agency, and they came and worked with us from the beginning. And then we started working in an agile way, but again, slowly, continuous delivery, continuous testing, all of those things, running the stand-ups properly, running the planning properly. That didn't all happen on day one. Those were things that I introduced gently to the team over time, so that people could kind of start to understand how these agile ways of working could actually improve the way that they delivered IT and digital services for the organisation. But yeah, introduced the agile methodology that I'd learned and was well versed in, having come from GDS. So we, consulted the users, we consulted the business, we had a backlog of stories, we prioritized them, design, test, build. Hopefully you all know that mantra by now, and I don't need to go on about it too much. So we developed an alpha site in 2014. was rubbish. We didn't get on terribly well with the supplier, so we scrapped the whole thing, and we changed suppliers. So that was the first actually really good thing that happened, is that we failed really fast, and we were able to re-procure really quickly and get a different partner on board and start working on it in a different way. So beta work commenced, as you can see, alpha done in autumn, which was actually just before I arrived, so like August, September, but we're already starting beta in October with a new supplier, so it was very quick. We used the digital marketplace. We started off working in 3 weekly sprints, but we actually changed to 2 weekly about halfway through. We started the regular user feedback. We started doing show and tells, completely new thing to City Hall. No idea what we're talking about when I say show and tells. So we just kept banging on about it, kept inviting people, kept trying to draw them in. And slowly attendance grew, and by the time we launched the beta, we had the whole, I don't know if anyone's been to the amazing 9th floor at City Hall. It's an incredible space. We had that whole room packed with people for the final show and tell, so that was quite satisfying. Private beta launched May 2015. And then we went public, so we had the 2 sites running in parallel as per the GDS service standard for about 3 or 4 months, so that we could ensure that the beta site was absolutely 100% fit for purpose before we turned off the old one, which we did in November 2015, so on time, to budget, all of that stuff. Throughout the duration, we ran 19 sprints. We did 70 hours of research in the GDS research lab. We published 3,000 pages on the new site, which was down from 18,000. So that gives you an idea of we didn't just slim down the content, we completely redid the content from start to finish. And 1,520 record cards used to record development stories in our backlog. So some of the challenges we found was getting the right skills. I've already mentioned we had a very small team to start with. We've managed to build that over time. So again, I took the organisation on a bit of a journey. I started to make the case for needing certain skills by basically getting the team to do everything, and then increasing demand for those skills. So take data analytics, for example. We still don't have a data analytics expert in our team. We upskilled one of our content designers. He started generating reports for different areas across the business and saying, hey, look how your area on London.gov.uk is performing compared to this area. And suddenly people are like, oh, okay, yeah, well, they're getting a bit more traffic than us. That's interesting. And especially the assembly members, because they're politicians, they get incredibly competitive. And suddenly lots of people are knocking on our door and saying, oh, can we have some analytics, please, in our area of the website? And then all of a sudden I have a case to make for a full-time data analyst, which I made, which got approved, and we're currently recruiting at the moment. See me after if you're interested. So, just again, taking the organisation on a journey, making the case for the skills that we need as we go. So that team of 3 that I mentioned at the beginning, we had the temporary staff, which I managed to make the case to make permanent. And then last year, I made another case to add an additional 5 roles to the team, which include the performance analyst I just mentioned, business analysis skills, one of our BAs, Oliver's here, over there, product management, and testing. So the team has grown over time, but it's not something that you can walk in and necessarily get on day one. So introducing new ways of working, I've already kind of mentioned. User needs come first. So that was pretty much accepted by my immediate team. That wasn't a problem. And I work in part of external relations, so the creative team got it, and the marketing team got it, and the events team got it, because they're really customer-facing in all of the work they do. But working with the policy teams, when we were saying, actually, we need to change your content on the website, not just how it's written, but how it's laid out and how much there is. And they're like, but this is all really important, this is what we do, we have to publish all of it. We're like, well, it's not written in plain English, and actually Londoners don't really understand it, and they're not really reading it. Look at the traffic you're getting. And we started taking them along to the GDS labs with us so they could watch users, Londoners, interacting with their content, and then they started to get it. So there was a lot of kind of gentle nudging and educating of the whole business throughout this process. Search was another challenge. We just kind of really naively assumed that we got a new website with new search functionality, that it was just going to work on day one. It really didn't. So, get your search right, get some specialists in. We had to do that after the event, but it's much better now, but it's still room for improvement. And this concept of an MVP, minimum viable product, so constantly trying to concentrate people's minds on, but what's the most important thing that we need to deliver? You don't need all the bells and whistles. You don't need to build the Homer, the all singing, all dancing car. Let's just focus on the core things that are really, really important. So just kind of repeating those messages, blogging about it, talking about it at show and tells, like a broken record. But when you're working in a big organization that's quite old-fashioned, you need to just keep saying these things, keep saying them, and eventually they do start to sink in. So the current picture, we have a very agile team. We are continuously improving london.gov.uk, as I said, a bigger team. We have a self-service model, so we've trained people across the organisation in various digital skills so they can do some of this stuff themselves. We offer training. And our team have become the kind of experts in the organisation who people come to for advice, and we help them with their implementation rather than doing everything for them. And we now have a much closer relationship with the IT department and really work with them in partnership. We're also doing a massive integration piece. We did an audit last year and found out that the organisation had 50 websites, which obviously is not a terribly good use of money and is very confusing for Londoners. Where are they supposed to go? The branding's all different, total mess. So we've shut loads of them down, we've migrated content across, and now we're in a process of where there are microsites like Talk London, which had kind of quite complex functionality, we are integrating those sites with london.gov.uk, so everything is in one place. There's a nice, clear user journey, and people can also find other things of interest. So developing digital skills at City Hall is a big part of what the team do, so I'm just going to go into that in a little bit more detail. So we run training courses across the organisation to help do these things, changing the culture, creating more resource, because we're only a small team and we can't do everything, and to improve communications. So these are the courses that we run at the moment. An introduction to Agile, which we co-designed with an external supplier, which is a one-day course, which is now centrally funded by the HR team. And then our team directly deliver adding and editing content, writing and designing content, and Google Analytics. But that's more than just how to use the CMS and edit content. It's actually sitting with them and making them think about their users and helping them to design that user journey, helping them to understand that they mustn't have too many distractions and that the call to action must be really clear. So by training people how to use the website, you're actually also training them to put the user first and to think about things from a Londoner's perspective, which means that we're kind of slowly upskilling people and getting them to think differently across the organisation through having to edit the website, which is quite cool, I think. One thing I haven't mentioned on here, because it hasn't been announced yet, is that we're also looking at doing a programme of digital leadership training for the organisation. So some of you might be aware that about a month ago, we appointed Theo Blackwell as our Chief Digital Officer, which is a fantastic move for the organisation, because we now have someone who is in the Mayor's team who is pushing and championing the digital agenda, which is a massive win. He's going to be working with us on this programme, but the point is that just having a Chief Digital Officer isn't really enough. People throughout your leadership team need to understand what digital means for their culture and for their business, and how those approaches to delivering a business need to be actually applied across the board, whether it's policy development, whether it's IT, whether it's out there delivering services in government. So I think that I'm very excited about that programme, but I can't talk too much about it at the moment. But that will actually target all of our leaders, so the mayor's team, all of the deputy mayors, and all of our senior management team, to help upskill them and make them more digitally confident. So challenges with the training, we need more buy-in from senior managers. So we kind of get a lot of enthusiastic people at officer level, but the senior managers will be like, no, it needs to be this way in this language. So, it's not perfect at City Hall at all. We've still got lots of problems we need to solve. Recruitment and product management. So again, people in policy teams might bring in a new person and recruit them, and then say to us, oh, we want to deliver this digital product, and this new person's going to be managing it. And we go and speak to them and realize they don't have the right skills at all. So that's something that we're working on, is to try and get involved in that recruitment, and then also trying to upskill those product managers when they join the organization. So we do a lot of work with upskilling product managers. As I said earlier, the more interest we get, the more demand the team has, the more we can expand the team by demonstrating the demand for what we're doing. We now have more content designers. We now have fewer annoying minor requests because people can self-serve, and we're producing much better quality work. I'm going to touch on this really briefly, but this is just kind of like the next thing that happened, which was that after we delivered Gov.uk and it had been really successful and everyone was really pleased with it, there was a big IT project that was needed, which is a new grants management system for the organisation, so a really meaty IT project. And the lady who was tasked with running that came to me and said, how do we do this? Which was just amazing, because just that happening was just really amazing. So I went and I sat down to her and I talked to her about using the digital marketplace, about agile working, about agile contracting, and all of those good things. And they built this system. They're still building it, but it's already up and running. It's been incredibly successful. It was a £1.5 million project, and what it's done is it's kind of kept the momentum, and it's a whole other, I think it's 3 big departments in the organisation: housing and land, regeneration, and another one, that are all using this system. They all went to the show and tells. They all saw the ways that they were working, and they loved it. So we're kind of spreading the love for agile and best practice digital delivery. I'm not going to go through that too much because I know I don't have an awful lot of time, and I want to tell you about some other stuff. So yeah, on to the two other key things that I wanted to talk to you about today, which is the Local Government Digital Service Standard. Does anyone know what that is? So I've got an idea of who I'm talking to. Right, okay, so you probably know that the GDS have a service manual, and that services that are delivered for central government need to adhere to the service standard, which has been developed by GDS. So in 2016, some people from GDS and some people from local government got together and said, we need one of these for local government, and so they came up with one. It's really similar to the central government one, few slight tweaks. So that standard, there was various consultation that happened on that standard. It was launched last year in March. We had a national summit at City Hall inviting people from local government to come and hear about what the standard meant for them and how they could adopt it and how it would help them. And I became the chair for the London peer group. So basically what that means is that we are trying to set up a community of people in London who are working in local government who are interested in adopting the Local Government Digital Service Standard. So we kind of put it out there, got some interested people together, asked them what they would like and how we could help them to adopt the standard. And what was interesting is that most of the councils in London were kind of starting from zero. They didn't really understand most of the things in the standards. They didn't really understand about continuous development and agile testing and, agile working, user needs, all of those kind of things. These were for most of them, and not all, I mustn't generalise because there's some really good pockets of work going on in London government, but most people were starting from zero. So we thought, well, we can't just say, right, well, we're going to start assessing you and you need to start delivering all your services according to the service standard, because that would have just been a horrible thing to do to people. And also, City Hall isn't in charge of London's government. So there's 33 councils in London, but they have devolved responsibility. They have their own budgets. They choose how to spend them. City Hall, the Greater London Authority, sets the strategy. So it's not like the Cabinet Office and all the government departments. The Cabinet Office, GDS, could say, we've got these spend controls, you have to use the standard, you have to do it this way. We don't have that kind of authority at City Hall. So we have to work with people and try and influence them and encourage them and empower them and upskill them to start working in these new ways, which is a very different way of working. So what we decided to do was, to start with, was set up a series of TCAMP events, and we started them at the beginning of this year. We do one every 6 weeks. It's 2 hours on a Thursday afternoon from 4 till 6 p.m. in a pub, usually. There's free tea and cake. And at each one of those events, we get an expert to come along and talk about that element of the digital service standard. And we usually try and get someone from local government in as well to talk about a case study where they've adopted that way of working to show the other people there how it can be done. So far, we've done a T camp on agile working. We've done one on user needs and user research. We've done one on the digital marketplace. And we've done the most recent one on KPIs and analytics. The next one is actually this afternoon, and it's about end-to-end testing. As I said, they're free events. And the idea is to start building a community of people working in London's government who want to do digital better. And so far we've got, have I written it up there? No, I don't think I have. Or maybe it's on the next slide. Yeah, there we go. I've got 17 London councils out of 33 signed up, which is pretty good going, because we've only been doing this for about 8 months. Plus people from City of London, the Local Government Association, London councils, Transport for London, et cetera, et cetera. So it's building quite a momentum already. It's building a nice community. But you know, it's just a start. We're just talking about some stuff at the moment. There's an awful lot more to do. And we need to figure out what resources we need in order to kind of spread the love across the councils and get more momentum, and also to get buy-in for this work at a more senior level. The people coming to the T camps are more officer level people, which is brilliant because they're the doers. But if their managers and their chief executives aren't bought in, then frankly it's not going to be very easy for them. So our next steps with the T camps are to increase membership, run more events, raise its profile, start running assessments in the future, and whether or not it should merge into LOTI, which is an acronym for the London Office of Technology and Innovation, which I'm going to talk to you about now. So this is the final thing I wanted to tell you about today. So you can see how the journey started at building a new website and kind of got bigger and bigger. We're looking at digital transformation in City Hall. Now we're starting to look at digital transformation across London government. And this is an incredibly ambitious idea. So this is just an idea. I can't really tell you what the London Office of Technology and Innovation is yet. The idea is that it's something that is central, that all of London's councils can choose to join, that it will be a test bed for building new services, helping to standardize digital services, helping to open up data and standardize data, maybe building some technology foundations, maybe helping with procurement. A lot of people in local government are locked into horrible, long IT contracts which they feel very unempowered to change and improve. So those are the kinds of innovations and problems that we think that LOTI might be able to solve. So at the moment, what we're doing to decide what the LOTI should be, if it should be anything, is we've appointed a consortium of suppliers, which is Arup, Stance and FutureGov, and they're conducting a scoping study for us. So they're running workshops with councils across London, and we also went along to the Verify Showcase to talk to people there. They've created a survey which has been sent out to chief executives and CIOs at London's councils. They've conducted interviews, and we're basically trying to talk to councils and find out what do they need, what are the common problems here that a LOTI might be able to solve. So the scoping study will be completed at the end of this month and will report in early November. And then those recommendations should hopefully be some kind of skeleton structure of what a LOTI should be, what its operating model might be, and how it should be funded. So look out for that. And obviously Theo Blackwell, our new CDO, is leading that. So it's kind of exciting. There's a lot going on. I've been spread quite thinly, as you can imagine, being across kind of all of this stuff. But it's a very exciting time at City Hall. There's a lot more to do, and having a Chief Digital Officer to champion this work is going to really help to raise its profile. So I think that's all. I've put contact details on here for some of my colleagues because tomorrow's my last day. But you can also contact me and tweet me if you like. And I'm very happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Natalie. That was great. Let's take it to the floor. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. I hope there'll be some questions. Yes, yes, lady.
Closing them down? Yeah, so I think, have you got one central place where you want everyone to go? I think what I tend to push people on is the costs to start with. So if they come onto the main platform, we're already paying for the hosting, we're already paying for the support contract, all of that kind of stuff, and we're keeping it up to date, all the technology up to date, all of that kind of thing. So they're saving money, which whether it's taxpayers' money or shareholders' money, whoever's money, saving money is a good thing in any organisation. And the other thing is about your brand and the coherence of your work to your user. So if your user's going to this site over here for this one thing, then you're missing an opportunity to tell them about all the other stuff that you're doing. So again, I talk to them about it from a user perspective and about the brand and say, you know, everything needs to be in one place to make it clear, a clear and simple user journey. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, over here on the right. Yes. Yeah.
It's a really good question, and it's quite tough because our current team, we have a content manager and we have 3 content designers. So they can't be across everything all of the time. What we do is we've carved up each area of the site to each of those officers. So they have contacts in those teams, and they work with them regularly. The team own that, they do the content, and then they sort of review it with them regularly, check that the information architecture is still working. I'd say, though, it's not perfect. It would be good to have some more resource across that. But we're doing the best we can. And it's working pretty well. But, you know, if you really went through the site, you would probably still find some pages that are a bit rubbish and need some work.
Sorry, I'm going to be a bit selfish. I've got a question.
Okay.
You talked about the digital leadership training component. I mean, that's obviously what I think what a lot of people in here grapple with a lot is what are those levers? And I think particularly in government, you know, there are certain sort of cultural attributes and behaviours that are predetermined. What would you say are the sort of top 2 or 3 things that that digital leadership program is going to be focusing on in terms of skilling those people up and changing that?
It's actually quite a difficult question because it's going to be very much co-designed with the people who go on the course.
Okay.
So the idea is that at the first meeting of the leaders is we'll give them some context and we'll say, in this context, this is what digital is, because, you know, it can mean so many different things to different people. So we say, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about digital. And then we're going to ask the leaders to say, to basically come along with things that they want to know more about and that they want to develop. And then they will then work with a mentor to go away and research and learn and try out that thing. And then they will come back to the group and present it to the rest of them so that hopefully they all learn about that thing from each person. But I mean, so the breadth of it and what it covers is completely up for grabs and up to the cohorts that go on it. But I think for me, having worked in the organisation for 3 years and you know, managed to transform and change an awful lot, but also having come up against a lot of barriers along the way, For me, it's it's this culture change that really needs to happen, which is the hardest thing to change. So the failing fast and openly and honestly culture in politics is really hard to do, because everything you do in the public sector has to be public, and politicians don't ever want to be seen to be failing. So, it's really difficult to kind of explain that culture and actually why failing and maybe throwing away £5,000, but having learnt something to ensure that you don't then throw away £2 million can be spun into a really good news story, is kind of one of the things that I'd like them to appreciate and kind of get behind. We launched this what's it called? Cleaner Vehicle Checker on Tuesday, which allows people to look up how polluting their vehicle is, which is part of the kind of air quality agenda. And the policy team wanted it to be like this, and they kept changing their minds. It was really tricky. And we were trying to keep them focused on user needs and what do we actually want the user to do. And we managed to get an okay product, but the mayor wanted to launch it on the Tuesday just gone, and I was saying, well, it's really not done. It's really not done. It's okay. And I spent some time just talking through with the mayoral team about how we couch it and how we explain that it's a beta and it's a first cut at this product, and how we're going to continue testing it with users and continuing improving it. And that was the wording that they used when they launched it, which I was really pleased about. But it's kind of that mindset. For me, is one of the key things that we kind of need the leaders to start to understand and embrace.
Very good, thank you. Okay. So look, we're going to have to. I'm sorry. We're just going to have. It's a shame that you can't join us, but you've got to go and wrap things up. But I'm
going to hang around for lunch. So I'll be around at lunch. Cool. You can come and ask me more questions then if you like.
Very good. Well, look. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Natalie. Big hand for Natalie.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.